Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep? That is unbelievable.
Trump, still desperate for the ghost and legacy of his ex-BFF Jeffrey Epstein to stop haunting him, is now saying that he doesn't get why people are so obsessed with their friendship. The 90s in Palm Beach, as he says, were just different. I guess he just had to be there.
Thursday night, you're going up the escalator? I'm going to be dating her in 10 years.
You can hear him say, I'm going to be dating her in 10 years. Can you believe it?
Look, I'm the first person who would be on that time machine to go back to the 1990s. I want the music, I want the vibes, I want the tech, the TV, the movies, I want it all. I will never be over my life as it was up until 1999. I also happened to move to Texas in 1999, but that might be irrelevant, who can say? But things really were different back then as far as what was appropriate, what was acceptable. We had heroin chic models. There was the Clinton scandal. We had the O.J. Simpson trial with Alan Dershowitz, who is surprisingly and disappointingly still very relevant today. We did not have gay marriage yet. We had racial tensions, though I would argue that what we're dealing with today is far worse than what it was back then. One thing, however, has remained the same between now and then. Just like Alan Dershowitz and Rudy Giuliani, Donald Trump was a public figure then as he is today. Not as he is today so much. He was less sinister back then, but at least publicly, he was just known as a rich real estate guy who had, he would make appearances here and there in magazines and in sequels to beloved childhood films. For the record, I've always said that Home Alone 2 Lost in New York was better than the first one, with that one very obvious caveat. Tim Curry, though, there was no Tim Curry in the first one, so I don't really understand how it's a competition. Now, the Wall Street Journal is reporting that back in July of this year, during a conservative conference in Tampa, Trump was on the phone asking everyone and anyone why people cared so much about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein and how he could just make the scandal go away. I guess none of them had any good suggestions for him because months later, it still hasn't gone away. We are still talking about it and we are still asking for those files. According to the Wall Street Journal, he told aides that, quote, people don't understand that Palm Beach in the 90s was a different time. And yeah, he's right. Back in the 90s, the world that we live in today was the stuff of fantasy. Social media, for example, maybe the most obvious example, wasn't really something that anyone was thinking about back then. I mean, we had just barely gotten the internet, thank you Al Gore, and we had emails and message boards and chat rooms and eventually instant messages, but I don't think anybody was thinking about social media the way it exists today, in a way where information, whether good or bad, could spread around the country and around the world even at lightning speed, where nothing ever dies, where something from 30 years ago, by definition a different time, could come back to haunt you as an old man in your late 70s completely out of context. And yeah, the context does matter. For example, some of the words that we said casually and thoughtlessly back then are simply words that we don't use or accept publicly in decent conversation in civilized company anymore. But context, or rather the lack of context, is not the problem here. Donald's problem is that we, the public, have so much context. We have too much context for his comfort. We know who the man he was fraternizing with was. We know what he was up to at that time. We know that Trump knew who and what he was back then. We also know that Trump himself was, aside from any association he may have had with Jeffrey Epstein, a creep. And in the statement that he made that has now been leaked, it's almost as if he's trying to suggest that the party scene in Palm Beach in the 90s was less discriminatory, right? This is a very forgiving reading of that statement. It's almost like he's saying you could just be at the same party with someone and get caught up in a conversation with someone, even someone you may not particularly like or regularly associate with. That is certainly possible. We've all been there. However, the more menacing possible suggestion of his statement is that, these things just happened back then. And by these things, I mean all of the things that Jeffrey Epstein's name has come to be synonymous with since the 1990s. But since July of this year, there have been concerted efforts from the Trump administration to kill the story. We've all just lived through them. We saw them try to say that Trump kicked Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago because he didn't want to have anything to do with him. We watched Trump berate a reporter for even asking about Jeffrey Epstein. We gawked at the desperate gaslighting attempts to claim that a signature that was obviously Trump's signature in a birthday book for Jeffrey Epstein was obviously not Trump's. We saw them suck up to Ghislaine Maxwell so that she, of all people, could attest to Trump's strong, upstanding moral character and to his innocence. According to the Journal, Trump was also upset that several other rich and powerful people would be implicated if the files ever got released. Yeah, we know. That's why we want to see them. So this story, specifically Trump's bewilderment as to how and why it hasn't gone away yet, shows that Trump had no problem with intentionally lying to his voting fan base. He told them while he was campaigning for a second presidential term that he would release the files, but he had no intention of ever delivering on that promise. He apparently just assumes that his fans will either forget about the things that he once said and even promised to them, or that they will listen to him when he tells them to just forget about it. He is utterly perplexed because he has been wholly incapable of controlling this particular narrative. And it makes sense that this would be the one to do it. MAGA and QAnon, at the point that they are indistinguishable from one another, care about the kids. They care about human trafficking. The Democrats do too. No one likes any of those things, but the MAGA/QAnon crowd have made caring about that particular issue central to their group identity. They think they're good people because they don't like something that is so manifestly and inherently abhorrent. Good for you. This story will not die. It really can't, because it's almost as if once this story dies, it means that QAnon and the MAGA movement would also crumble. Either way, it's bad for Trump, and also it's bad for the Republicans who spent the last 10 years propping him up, supporting him, and now defending him. Trump, it would appear, has no way out of this one. All right, that's it for me. If you got anything out of this, please like the video and subscribe to the channel for more. Thanks.